Welcome to The Trader, a Traitors podcast. Some of you know me. I'm Matthew, a writer and Traitors superfan working in TV development. The Trader features deep dives into every episode of English-speaking versions of the show, as well as interviews with contestants. And this season of the podcast will be dedicated to The Traitors US Season 3. And if you're using Spotify or YouTube, you will have noticed that this is now a visual podcast, so you can see us as well as listen. I am currently working on the Traitors UK Season 3 coverage, which has 3 episodes every single week, which is fairly time consuming. So, to help me out, reality TV guru and regular co host on the podcast, David Bloomberg, will take the reins. I'll join David back on the pod once the UK season has finished. Until then, I'll hand over to David. Bye.
Thank you, Matthew. I'm happy to be here again for season 3 of The Traitors US. Today we're talking about episode 1, and I know Peacock dropped the first 3 episodes all at once, but due to scheduling reasons, we're splitting up the podcast into covering the premiere now and then episodes 2 and 3 in a couple days. For those of you who don't already know me, I've been covering reality TV for over 24 years, online, in newspapers, on my own websites, and of course for almost 10 years in podcasts. In addition, I post reality TV videos on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram as @DavidBloombergTV, and talk quite a bit about the topic on Blue Sky and really anywhere else people will listen. Because I've been covering reality TV for so long, I'm very familiar with the former Survivor and Big Brother players who are on this season in particular. My guest co-host today is also very familiar with them. She is a podcaster for Recap Kickback, Silent Podcasts, and Rob has a podcast, like me, an Inside Survivor contributor, and a Survivor Diversity Campaign advocate. Welcome, Gia Worthy.
Thank you so much, David. I am honored to be your guest host for today. I think this is my first full Traitors podcast appearance for talking about the Traitors in a podcast format. Normally I just do it on my phone like everybody else, but this is going to be very nice. And unfortunately, I do not have much knowledge on the non-Survivor and Big Brother players, but I'm sure we will be able to figure it out together.
Yes, I think so. I just assumed that you knew everything about, all of them. So
I understand. I give off that vibe. I do feel like I give off the vibe of an avid Real Housewives viewer. And recently I did do a guest spot with Bryce about Real Housewives of Potomac. So I'm not I've enjoyed the Real Housewives. I just feel like I have so much other shows I need to watch before I get to Housewives. And there's so many of them.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's start, of course, with the Traitor game. And regular listeners will know this, but my guest and I will lie to one another once during the podcast. The lie can be big or small about the traitors themselves or anything else, as long as it is a complete fabrication. However, we are looking for fake facts, not fake opinions. Like, I can't say I was so upset that Carolyn was chosen as a traitor because that's an opinion, and it was the opposite anyway. But I can say I knew Boston Rob was going to be here. Well, that wouldn't be a lie, I guess. I did know Boston Rob was going to be here. So at the end of this episode, we'll put our traitor hunting skills to the test and see if we can detect the other person's lie. Are you ready to betray me?
Yes, I am.
In that case, our game begins now.
I'm excited. That was not the lie. I promise.
Now, normally I would at this point ask my guest what they thought of the season so far, but this is the season so far. So we'll just jump right into it. Although I did want to mention, I was thinking about this. I think the last time you and I podcasted together was also the first time. Was it the first time you podcasted on Big Brother? I believe we had you on. Was it?
Yes, it was.
Or no, it was a Survivor. Why Blank lost?
It was Big Brother. Listen, I know we don't like to talk about Big Brother All Stars too, but it was one of the first few weeks when we were
Okay.
still a little hopeful that things may turn out
Yes.
like for
Okay.
the best, and it didn't. It did not happen. But yes.
Yeah, that season was so bad that I landed in the hospital for 10 days at the end of the
Yep.
season. That it
Yep.
just and it was just a buildup of that whole
That's
season.
what stress does. But luckily, we have, I feel like, a much more well-rounded cast here. If
Yes.
not, even though we are seeing a few of the gender imbalance happen as a result of this challenge, which I'm really hoping is not a continuing trend this season, but not great, not a great start in terms of the challenge itself. But I do really like this cast, and I've been very excited for the very early stages of this episode.
Yes, same here. Same here. All right. Well, we begin with Alan welcoming us to the show with scenes from the season that show me we are definitely getting some of the same missions as we've already seen in the Traitors UK, which is as I expected. They film back to back in the same castle, so they often use the same missions. The cars start driving up as players are talking about, themselves arriving. Dorinda says everyone knows her as the Lady of the Manor. No, I don't know her at all, actually. So, and of course, there are clips like people not wanting to see Tony and Danielle not wanting to see Brittany. And hey, everybody, guess what? Um, the players overreact to seeing some people in cloaks and masks along the road as if they've never seen the show before. And I think we'll find out that at least one of the people has not ever seen the show before.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah.
I think that might be a possibility.
Yeah.
I'm very intrigued about her reason. Like, what was the conversation that led for Chanel to be accepted on this show? Like, did they explain the premise to her? Did she watch?
Oh, I wasn't even thinking of her. I was thinking of Ian. Is that how you pronounce it?
Wait, hold on. Sorry, I still need to get accustomed to some of this cast. Let me.
Yes.
Where is Ian not on here? No, they must be on here. Oh yeah. No, so Chanel is her first name. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
And yes. But
okay.
Yes. We are thinking of the same person.
I don't know why I thought her that. Well, see, that just shows.
Well, I think it came up as Ion in
okay.
in the Chiron. So I think I'm just looking at the
right. I pulled it up too.
On here.
Yeah, I see the same thing. So yes, we are talking about the same person.
Yes.
I think
I guess we also don't really know what we're talking about here.
I think the conversation probably went something like this. Do you want to go on this show? There'll be a bunch of other housewives and some other reality TV people. You have a competition. Oh, and by the way, here's the fee that we're giving you to come. Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's probably it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you right now, she's guaranteed at least final 6 at this point.
You think so?
She's giving me very Sheree vibes from last season, but to the max. Like,
okay.
Think of like Sheree and Kevin from season 2. Just combine them together, maybe sprinkle in a little of some of our season 1 folks and just like, just mix it together. But so far she's been very funny.
Yes,
like I'm certainly not bored. So yes. I welcome the idea that she is here for the long run.
So they come in. Fergus welcomes them in, and a bunch of hooded followers, as Alan will later call them, are rhythmically pounding their staffs on the ground when they arrive. Others see Sandoval and aren't happy. Jeremy sees Tony, and while Tony blindsided Jeremy in Winners at War, at least they know each other and Jeremy knows how he plays. Carolyn joins them and is very happy that they know who she is. Now, who doesn't know who Carolyn is? Come on. Various housewives meet along with Dylan Efron, who is a Survivor fan. Brittany sees Danielle, and they come together as Danielle tears up because of 2023's Reindeer Games, though Brittany just says she got her out of Big Brother And I don't know if she said the whole thing and they cut it or what. They may have just been like, we don't need to say reindeer games.
I was just wondering if it was my assumption is that because they know them both from Big Brother, that like that's kind of their main claim to fame. I think that just we obviously know what they meant by
Right.
reindeer games because we watched it.
Yes.
But I just imagine being one of the people sitting at home being like, oh, I was the reason Danielle went home on Big Brother reindeer games. So like, I'm sorry, what?
Yes.
What is that? So I maybe for just a point of clarity, like we don't need to actually dig into the specifics of it.
Yeah. And for anyone who is wondering, it was in 2023, Christmas time, they had a bunch of former Big Brother players in the Big Brother house, not actually staying there, but competing in various challenges there. And they knocked each other out, and Brittany did something that ended up getting Danielle knocked out. And so, it wasn't as intense as a Big Brother season.
Yeah. I'm telling you, David, I did not watch the rest of reindeer games after. I was also devastated by Danielle's boot here. It was so sad. Like, girl, me too. I was crying.
I was rooting for Taylor all the way, and we won't.
I did.
Should we not spoil the season? It was over a year ago. I don't know, but
is it considered a spoiler if you tell them like if it has happened for a certain time? Like
I don't think it's a spoiler at this point anymore.
Yeah, like when I was in college, my roommates, they were watching The Office before all of that, like while I was in my undergrad at college. So mind you, The Office has been off the air, like done for like 6, 7, maybe even 10 years at this point. It had been a long time. Like it felt like it'd been gone for 10 years, right? And they were mad that I spoiled something about, I had like mentioned that like they were upset that Jim and Pam broke up, and they were up and I had mentioned, oh yeah, but when they get back together, they're like, it's gonna be like really sweet and stuff like that. And they're mad that I spoiled it. We're not friends anymore. So if they're listening to this, like I hope you know I didn't forget. But she was so mad that I spoiled something that happened in like the 4th season of a show that ended like a decade ago. I am very nonchalant with a lot of spoilers. Like if it's not like a Survivor,
right,
like spoilers while the season is airing. Other than that, like I don't really care. But so I just don't understand the gatekeeping around spoiling things for people for things that have ended very far and away.
Yeah, I just recently watched a show that it's been off the air for years and years.
Yeah.
And it actually helped knowing certain things because there was one of those will they, won't they coupling things. And it went on for way too long. If I had watched this live, I would have been so frustrated.
Be insufferable.
Yes. But because I knew they did get together, I was like, okay, then fine. At least it'll get there eventually, and we'll be done with this. So
yeah. Oh, I feel like we're watching the same type of TV at this point because I told you I was podcasting with Chappelle. We were podcasting the show How to Ruin Christmas. It takes place. It's a South African TV show, and they so we're kind of like bringing some international shows in there, but they have like. It has like a similar will they won't they vibe in there. So I've enjoyed that quite a bit, and it's very funny. I enjoyed it. But the South African shows, their seasons are like 3 episodes long. So that was like, yeah.
Like some British shows. Yeah.
Yes.
Turn on a British show. Oh, there's a new season. Oh, it's over. Wait, what happened?
Oh my God. Some of the 2 episodes. My parents got BritBox recently on Amazon Prime. And there's like it's fabulous. I love it because like all the murder mystery shows that they have on like the detective show, I love those. And there's like 50 seasons of everything, but they're only 6 episodes long. It is so easy to binge watch so quickly. I'm like, yeah, I watched like 4 seasons of this in one day.
Yeah. We should podcast about that. But probably at this point, people are like, okay, we've heard their full TV histories now. Can you please move on?
No.
So, anyway, back to Danielle and Brittany. I blame myself for that tangent. But Uh, so Danielle and Brittany come together. Danielle is practically in tears. And then Brittany says something that I find odd. She tells Danielle she knows she messed up and hurt Daniel. And Brittany says, and that hurt me. And I didn't expect that. And I'm thinking, Brittany, it's not about you in this moment. And Danielle doesn't really care if you're hurt. She cares that you hurt her.
Yeah. This is kind of and this happens again later in the episode with the boat drama of like people saying, well, we feel bad that this happened. It's just like, okay, but you aren't the one most negatively impacted by that. So like, let them have their moment. Let Danielle have her moment here.
Yeah. And I'm sure she wasn't trying to convey that, but that's how it came off to me.
Yeah.
Danielle, for her part, says she was angry that it happened, but mostly at herself for allowing herself to get hurt, and she forgives but won't forget. Now, Alan comes out on horseback and welcomes them. He dismisses his cloaked followers, except the one that stays behind. And that one approaches Alan and eventually is revealed as Boston Rob. If one of the players in the game comes forward and shakes Alan's hand, Rob will come into the game and that person will choose who leaves. Now, this part of the show was released last week as a special preview. And my prediction was nobody would shake Alan's hand, but they'd find a way to get Rob into the game anyway, because they didn't fly him all the way to Scotland for nothing. And later we'll, I think, discuss that they may have flown at least one other person all the way to Scotland for nothing. But you don't fly Boston Rob all the way to Scotland for nothing.
I mean, I feel like they could have. I wouldn't have been mad.
I know. I'm just saying, remember, Peacock, same network or same owners as NBC. He was just on Deal or No Deal Island. He's now doing the after show for Deal or No Deal Island. Ugh. So they're going to get him into the game.
I really hate how this twist was executed for several reasons in here, but I'm sure we'll talk about this towards the end of the episode here, but the way that they presented it to them, it just doesn't seem like there's no real logical reason for any of the players to make such a big statement so early, with not only deciding to have Boston Rob be in the game, which, I guess unless you're Amber or one of his close friends, then one of his really close friends, then maybe you would make that decision in there. But I just don't, there's really just, as a neutral player, there's just no benefit to doing that, especially with how the Traitors works. How do we not know that, okay, if I picked this person to leave, how do I know that they're not going to come back?
Oh, I guarantee that the same twist was going to happen. I mean, that was something I had posted a short video about this and said, whether Rob or someone else, they're coming back.
Yeah. There's no way they just dismiss the person and then that person would have a vendetta against me specifically in there. So even though I know they tried to play it up, maybe Danielle would do it, I did not see a reason for anybody to do it, even if the inevitable Boston Rob was going to return was going to happen anyway.
Right. Rob does speak on his own behalf to say someone would gain him as an ally and they could get rid of an enemy. Carolyn seems to consider it the most. She appears to be seriously, fighting with herself, but no, nobody does it as, we thought. Rob says he's upset he didn't get picked and he got prejudged. And I just want to pause here because no, Rob, you didn't get prejudged. They've had 2 decades of seeing you on reality TV. That's just judged, not prejudged. There's the evidence is there.
Robert, we have seen you played a very similar game for 5 seasons now in a row, and one special appearance on Island of the Idols. We've seen enough. And for those that have also seen Deal or No Deal Island, I feel like we have a pretty good idea of how Boston Rob plays strategy games.
Yeah.
Did you watch Deal or No Deal Island?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I did, and we will try not to take a long tangent there. There are aspects of it I like. ironically, the Deal or No Deal part is the worst part of the show. It's the worst
That
part
ma-
of the game. Um,
Yeah, I should probably give it another try. Watched it for like the first 20 minutes of it and then was like, no, not for me. But that
Yeah.
really wasn't fair, especially since so many people seem to really like it. And some of our contestants that are here for season 2, it seems pretty exciting as well.
That's right, because of course Parvati from season 2 is now on Deal or No Deal Island. So,
Yes. They're
there's well, I think
swapping
because it's the NBC
yeah,
contract thing,
the
and
NBC cinematic universe.
right, right. Which, by the way, speaking of contracts, I still don't understand how Carolyn got onto the show so quickly, because I thought they had 3-year contracts from Survivor, and it has not been 3 years from Carolyn's season.
It seems yeah, that I don't really understand because they must have a change in the contracts from other seasons. They have to because it really does. And we've had some like very recent Survivor players come onto the challenge too, right?
Yeah, but that's the same network, so that
Oh,
I can
okay, yeah.
see.
Yeah, I don't really know how that worked out because it also just does just from, the rumor mill
Hmm.
around Survivor 50, it seems like they weren't happy about her going on the Traitors either. If
Mm.
you believe that Survivor rumor mill in there for potential casting for Survivor 50,
Hmm.
but I am also a little confused about that. But I think this was a good move for her, especially given
Yes, I think
the
so
next
too.
the
Yeah,
next 10 minutes of the show.
right. So anyway, they all enter the castle, except for Rob, who of course is taken away. Someone finds a secret room behind a bookcase that I think used to be the armory, but now appears to be a treasure room. And I do think this was there last time too, because I think that's where there was the little secret
Yeah.
meeting. That
Yes. Oh yeah, where the the faithful alliance and the pool
right.
ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's like gold there and stuff. I say forget the missions, just load up the gold in this room and run.
Like, I'm all set, thank
Yeah.
you. Do you watch I think it was the Traders New Zealand, the first season,
Yes.
where they offered someone just like it was like 10 grand or
10
something, right?
grand. 10
Yeah.
grand New Zealand dollars
Yes, that's
too.
very different than American money.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but I quite often take out my calculator during some of these international
Mm-hmm.
shows to see what the exchange rate would be. Still a good chunk of change and probably more than what a lot of those players left with, but I don't know. I don't know if that was necessarily I guess if you wanted to start a reality TV career, not the best move, but
Right.
it
I
feels
mean,
tempting.
I heard that that player did use the money well and, helped him start a business or something like that. So that's
Oh,
good.
okay.
But yeah, if I were going through all of casting and everything, I'm not doing it for $10,000 New
Yeah.
Zealand, to not play. um, sorry. Um, anyway, we hear from who I thought was Ian, but maybe Chanel, from Real Housewives of Dubai, a show that I did not know even existed until just now. She says she doesn't know what she got herself into. And, as we were hinting at before, you got to love people who come into play without doing the most basic of research, like, I don't know, watching. But she adds that she's been paid for being beautiful. Nobody has ever paid her for her brains.
I want your job so bad. Like, girl,
I often had the same problem.
yes, I understand. It's hard. It's hard looking this good, but I can only applaud her for the accuracy. Like she knows who she is and what she
Right.
does well. I love that for
Right.
her.
Yeah. Players in one room are bringing others up to speed on how good Tony is, while he's telling Jeremy and Carolyn and Wells from Bachelor in Paradise that he wants to be a faithful. Carolyn calls him out. That's a bunch of BS, and she's going to be watching him.
Yeah. So this is the other thing that really grinded my gears during this segment here. It was just like, we know who Tony as a player is and stuff, but what, like, and I'm sure a good chunk of the people in this cast do not know Tony for the player that we know Tony to be, right? Like, But why is he wasting his time telling Jeremy and Carolyn, like the two people guaranteed to know who he is and what kind of game he plays, one of which actually played with him
Yes.
and was on the wrong side of his ire? Why is he wasting time telling them that he's going to ask to be a faithful? They know that's not true.
Yeah.
Yeah. He would be terrible at this traitor game we're playing here. Like,
Yeah.
and honestly, I think Alan made the right decision not picking him to be a faithful because, you know, I've underestimated Tony's ability to last long, like, especially in the early stages of Winners at War, like when the cast was announced and everything. And I'm sure I'm not the only one, but it doesn't line up. It doesn't line up with like the Tony that we know. And I think like the way that he is acting right now, something's got to give or he's going to be a fairly early banishment.
Yeah. And of course, he does tell us that, you know, Carolyn's right. Carolyn could be a problem for him. Meanwhile, Wells practically runs out of the room in fear from these Survivor players. Ivar, I think I'm pronouncing that right, introduces himself as the King of England's second cousin, and as Bob calls him, the first gay royal.
I'm sure that's not true, but okay.
The first
openly
gay royal. Yes. In modern times I'm
talking about just England has a very long history.
Right.
I'm sure there's been a few in there.
Yes.
But yes, I love that they had Bob like say it like he was he's our historian on modern gay history. Did you watch The Biggest Loser when
I did?
Yes.
I did. Obviously, it was many years ago, and
Yeah.
my website, Reality News Online, at the time covered it without realizing the damage that show was really doing to people.
You don't have to tell me. I loved Biggest Loser when I was younger. Like that was, oh my God. Like we would wait. It was like every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Obviously, like at that time, and a lot of people didn't know, but just did not know like how problematic of a show it was. But oh yeah, I remembered Bob so well.
Yeah. Not to mention how problematic one of his co-hosts is.
Oh yeah, her too.
Yeah.
That was a rough reveal down the line.
Yeah. Anyway, it is time to select the traitors. Carolyn really wants to be a traitor, and Alan tells her not to beg, but Tony does beg. Brittany says being a faithful is being a sitting duck. She doesn't want to be the duck. She wants to shoot the duck. Alan walks around the round table. I notice he isn't wearing a cloak this season because remember last season, someone said they could hear his cloak rustle when he raised his arm to tap someone on the shoulder.
Was that was that their random British man for season 2?
I think so. I think it was
John. I think that's what was his name. Yeah.
And so he goes around, and Danielle is the first one picked. And yes, I'm very happy.
Carolyn. So happy.
Carolyn is next, and I am incredibly happy now. I was hoping they'd pick her because how can you tell her usual behavior from suspicious behavior? You can't. It is not possible.
I had a feeling that they were going to pick a Survivor player again.
Oh, yeah.
Like I had a feeling that they were going to. I was not expecting it to be Carolyn. I actually thought that they were going to pick Jeremy. Because I just feel like Jeremy is so unassuming of a player, and he's been off TV for a few years now. Like he hasn't, I think it makes sense. He makes sense as like a potentially strong traitor pick, but Carolyn was by an incredible pick here. So absolutely no notes on this.
Yes. And then third is Bob the drag queen, who I don't know much about, but seems to be, a lot of fun.
I'm so glad you said that because I love Bob the drag queen. They're one of, if not my like top favorite drag queen from RuPaul's Drag Race. One of the last seasons of RuPaul's Drag Race I watched was Bob's winning season. Spoiler. I'm sorry. I
Oh
know.
no.
You know my
I
th-
was going to watch that. Now
I
you've
know.
ruined it for me.
You know my stance on
I know.
spoilers, but yes. But I absolutely love Bob. They are so funny. I highly recommend just watch. They have a podcast. They have their
Is it,
winning season. They have
Bob has a
so
podcast? Is that
Bob has a podcast. I know, controversial, but I believe it's called Sister Rivalry with another
Okay.
drag queen, Monet Exchange. I'm apologize if I'm getting my queens mixed up here, but that like Bob is such a cultural cornerstone of like drag comedy, and so I'm so happy to see Bob here. I was very happy to see Bob as the next drag race persona that they chose for the Traitors. I'm even more excited now that they're a traitor.
Yes, yes. So all the players remove their blindfolds and look around. Carolyn immediately grabs the water to drink, which, if you've watched New Zealand, you should know that's a mistake. Just ask Jane about that. You drink water too quickly and you can get in trouble. But no one seems to notice that here. Alan tells players that they've adopted the rules from Canada and maybe others. He doesn't say it that way, which the UK is also doing. And the final people banished at the very end will not reveal whether they're traitors or faithful. I like this, but it also does help the traitors at the end.
Yeah, I'm wondering, is that something they did? Like, what do they mean by the end? Do they mean like final five onwards?
Either final six or final five. I
Final
can't
six or
remember what it was in
yeah.
Canada. I think they may have
So
started at final six in this most recent Canada season.
yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, because they did it in New Zealand as well in season
Right.
two, but they did it at final five, which I feel like is
Mhm.
a little more fair. But and they got pretty close to getting the last traitor out there as well. But I don't know if the traders necessarily needed more help. I don't
Yeah.
know if I'm curious to see how it unfolds once we get towards the end game here, because I could be wrong. I just don't see this working out in a way that would be more predictable here. And it's not like we've had
Mhm.
this string of faithfuls winning every season as well. Like what we've had one season in the US where Trader won, another season where the faithfuls won, and they'd had the same in
Right.
UK but reversed as well. So it just doesn't seem necessarily like anything I needed to see. I love
Yeah.
the traitor reveals, or the faithful reveals. I love them getting their
Yes.
moment to
Yeah, there
have
were
their
a couple
final grand like exit.
there were a couple times, I don't remember if it was New Zealand or Canada. I think it was Canada, where I really wanted someone to say, "No, you dummies, I'm a faithful." But they didn't get
Yes.
that moment to say
Yeah.
it. But I also think, in addition to it helping the traders, I think it helps to force the faithful to whittle themselves down to two. Now, they didn't need that help last season, but I think if you get out and, like, let's say you're at the final five and you
Mhm.
knock out a traitor and then you knock out a traitor and you're the final three. Those final three could just be like, okay, we're done. We know.
Yeah.
And I think without knowing that, it encourages the final three to become a final two.
But yes, but also I feel like there's already enough incentive to try to do that for the faithful anyway, just from the
Mhm.
grand, I like just from that temptation of,
Yes.
well, I could either split this $80,000 with one person or two.
Yeah.
So one will give me a significantly larger chunk of change there. Um, so I do kind of see that. I don't know. I feel like let the players play.
Yeah.
I don't need these make them do math. Make them find out how many traders they've actually gotten rid of and see if
Yeah.
that adds up with what they think is going on here.
Yeah. I think we have to realize there's some people in this cast who are not going to be able to do math.
Yes, but that makes it more funny when
That's
they
true.
happens. Like
That's true.
I don't need them all to be strategic. I need them to do their best and entertain me in the process
Yes.
here.
Yes.
Like if like David, you've played Mafia with me before. Sometimes
Yes.
you just go by the vibes, It doesn't need to be a strategic fest. Sometimes it is, but sometimes
Mhm.
just this doesn't feel right.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, Tony knows that with his rep, everybody's going to think he's lying even when he tells the truth. So he needs to start pointing fingers right away to make people think he's a faithful because he is a faithful. Except I have a feeling it won't go that way. It reminds me of him running into the jungle to look for idols on his second Survivor season. Like, I have to do this because it's what expected of me. And it's like, no, you don't. Calm down.
And unfortunately for Tony, that first, I think it's like 5 or 6 episodes of Game Changers are the only ones I try to remember. So, yeah. So his exit was a very very glaring part of that godforsaken season.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, are we gonna get Kagayan or Winners at War Tony, or are we going to be getting Game Changers Tony?
Right now it seems like Game Changers
Yes,
Tony, but I'm still hopeful. But
I don't necessarily think that Tony is dead in the water at this point. I just think we're getting a lot in the edit that says that people are already done with his shenanigans right now. And on Survivor, especially as like a clear physical presence, I mean, he was on the Braun tribe when he started, that he is going to be somebody that they'll keep around, even if they don't necessarily vibe well with like how openly he plays the game, which I think is definitely to his advantage. But in the Traitors, I just feel like with a castle full of housewives, bachelorette people, like that's just not the same vibe that people are going for here.
Right. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I want to see what they do when he goes outside and makes a ladder out of a bunch of branches that are lying around,
I say like just let him work. Just let him get his energy out.
Yep. Sandoval believes that Chriselle is scared and uncomfortable and was hunched over. Tony immediately joins in on this as the immediate finger pointing starts. But Dylan tells us he wants to play this game the way it should be played, as a true faithful. And I immediately gag because no, that's not the way this game should be played. And I can tell Dylan is going to annoy me.
I'm just saying, I'm keeping that in mind for the lie. I don't think you immediately gagged, David.
Then you don't know me very well.
Yes.
I have very physical reactions.
I did roll my eyes a little bit at him. I don't hate him quite yet, but like, let's see, because I feel like sometimes, they say one thing and then they're going to end up doing another, especially when you are given your initial assignment in there. But I do kind of think that, it's easier said than done with playing that true faithful game. And it comes off very preachy initially, because really what is the initial phases of the Traitors other than a bunch of finger pointing and hoping that you are somewhat right, but really getting nowhere and just going off of very minute suspicions. Like we see it all the time in these shows.
And if you refuse to join in the finger pointing, then a lot of times what will end up happening is people will say, oh, you don't want to name names, then you must be a traitor.
Yes.
So,
R.I.P. Max.
Yeah.
I won't forget.
Yeah. Jeremy says, no way Carolyn is a traitor. But Bob notes the same thing I did, which is that she's unpredictable. That's Bob the drag queen, not Bob, the Biggest Loser guy. Meanwhile, Carolyn is talking to Sandoval, who also says the same thing I did, that she's the same as she was before, twitchy, and as she adds, weird. Sandoval also tells Danielle that he's confident in her. So he's 0 for 2 so far. Dylan lets Chriselle know that Sandoval was bringing her up, and she thinks it's because she's friends with his ex-wife, Ariana.
Yes. Who was it? This is the Scandival guy, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't watch Vanderpump Rules, but I know what Scandival is, and that there was this big scandal, for lack of better word, around him cheating on Ariana. I don't know who Ariana is or who
Yeah.
really any of these people are, but I know the name from that. So
Right.
I did enjoy Alan's little dig about how, it must hurt to be lied to, huh? Like when he was talking about if he was going to, what if I heard you say you don't want to be a traitor and then I pick you for a traitor.
That was a nice little dig. Yes.
That was
Yes.
fun. That was fun. Alan's a great host.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
All right, it is time for the first mission. And they're starting with the one that was in episode 3 of the Traitors UK, which I discussed with Matthew on this very podcast just a couple days ago. Except this being the US version, there is $40,000 worth of gold available rather than only 10,000 pounds in the UK version. They need to row a Viking boat across the loch. I got to say it with the proper accent there. And stop at pontoons along the way to pick up fuel, and they can pick up gold as well. They have to come back within 75 minutes and light a ring of fire. Whoever is in the ring gets a shield. What they don't know, but are about to find out, is they have to leave 2 volunteers at each raft and those people will give up their chance at a shield. Now, most of the players have apparently never seen an oar before, may have never seen a boat before, let alone figure out how to use them. And they burn like 10 minutes just trying to get away from the pier and almost running aground. Nobody is itching to volunteer. Once they finally do, get going, I find it amusing that Bob tells them to all, he says heave and they all yell ho. I find that amusing. Nobody seems to get it. I thought it was funny, but once they get to the first raft, it's fuel and no one is itching to volunteer, but Robin from Real Housewives of the Potomac does it. And that was another show I didn't know existed. Now, you mentioned earlier that you've watched some of the Housewives stuff. I have watched exactly one episode of a Housewives show in my entire life. I think it was New York. I can't remember back then.
Yeah, probably back when there was like only 3 to keep up, like 3 versions of the Housewives to keep up with.
How many are there now? I have zero idea.
There's so many. There are so many. And okay. I can't keep up with them. I don't know how people like watch all, like keep up with multiple versions of this franchises, but they are all over now.
Okay, well, Ion also volunteers as well, even though she tells us she doesn't know what she's doing and admits to us she doesn't think, she just rushes into situations.
Icon. Love her.
That's
my 6th placer right there.
That's right. The next pontoon has $20,000. Dorinda and Dolores volunteer. Again, much different from the UK, where nobody volunteered at the first cash one. They were like, no, we're going to wait. Danielle thinks it's obvious that Dolores is a fellow traitor because of the way that she just jumped off that boat. Wells also thinks that if you get off the boat, that means you're not scared. And then after the boat leaves, Dolores suddenly comes to the same realization. Next raft is for fuel. Bob makes a big show. Bob, the drag queen, makes a big show that they shouldn't leave all the women vulnerable.
Yeah.
And to put his money where his mouth is, he volunteers, knowing, of course, full well that, he's fine.
But he does make a good point, and that's part of the I haven't started the 3rd season of the UK yet. That's on my projects for this weekend. But so I don't know how it worked out here, but the people on this season assumed that, we've heard this, we are Survivor fans, we hear the story oldest time, that like, oh, well, girls have to get off. And they use the term girls for this. Like, well, they all have to get off because obviously we need the big, strong men around, even though some of us has, I believe it was Gabby. That was one of the Bachelorette. Divas on there, or Bachelor divas on there, saying that it's really just about technique. It is not about it's not just brute strength in there. And I agree with her. I have rowed a boat before, and Yeah, like it's not easy. Like you definitely need some upper body strength, but you can do it, especially when you're already like sharing this boat with like 10 people.
Right.
So that ticked me off a little bit.
Yeah, in the UK, I will say there was some discussion of that. There was also some discussion of some people who didn't understand the technique. They had some problems with technique issues as well. And then there were some people who just got pissy with other people telling them that their technique was bad. But there were a lot of the same issues, but in a slightly different way, I guess.
Yeah. I hope this challenge doesn't come back then.
Yeah. When no other guy volunteers after Bob did, Danielle tearfully and nobly sacrifices herself as well. And then both of them pretend on the raft to be faithful to the other, which is really a funny series of scenes.
I loved it. I need a picture. I don't know if anyone on the social media apps have found it yet, but I need the screenshot. I need the screenshot of them talking to each other on the raft. Like dream team right there.
I will try to remember to get that for you.
I'm sure it will come up on the timeline soon, but thank you.
Yes. The next draft is fuel again, so they have to leave a couple people there. Brittany again pushes the idea that men should volunteer, so Bob Harper and Sam do. Before they row to the final money raft, they all discuss, hey, we'll need 2 more volunteers. Nobody wants to. And so after some back and forth, they just are like, okay, well, then there's no point to rowing over there. And they just row back instead. Gabby complains to us that the men are annoying and don't want to risk their safety. Okay, Gabby, you were right. I think she was the one who said it, that she was right about the technique stuff, like you mentioned. But yeah, nobody should want to volunteer like that. Everybody should sit in the boat, say nothing, and, in theory, not volunteer. So complaining that people aren't volunteering to be vulnerable, sorry, that just doesn't cut it. They do make it back to the pier in plenty of time with $20,000 and the fuel, and so they light up the ring and they get their shields. After Alan chides them a bit for not getting 2 more volunteers for the extra $10,000, he sends them off while leaving the others on the rafts to be picked up and brought back to the castle separately, which will become an issue very shortly.
It was very funny, though.
Yes. So back at the castle, it's dinner time for the players who got their shields. On the way back, those who volunteered are complaining a bit. They return and they get the scraps of dinner. Like literally some of the trays of food are empty. Production has not even bothered to replenish it. Like they were like, nope, this is the food we got. You're done. And they had to know that was going to twist the knife even more.
Oh, yeah.
And
they knew what they were doing. Those messy folks over there.
Yeah. So then Bob the drag queen stomps into one room and the people there start trying to explain. So then he brings in all the other volunteers to hear. Danielle really plays up, being upset and storms out to eat alone. And then there are more discussions about the decisions. Jeremy and Ivar note to Dorinda that one of the volunteers could be a traitor. And indeed, because of the way she's going on and on, they're starting to suspect her. With that, it is time for bed as they all pretend to go upstairs to their rooms, which isn't actually happening because they actually go out to cars and they're driven to their rooms somewhere else.
It makes me so sad that they don't actually sleep in this castle.
Yeah. I just think it's funny that the UK version makes it clear, no, they get driven somewhere else.
Yeah, like they show us the vans and everything.
Right. Yeah, but in the US, I do remember last season, whatever his name was, the token British Parliament guy.
Yeah.
He one time, when they said it was time for bed, he started to head for the door and someone had to grab him and turn him towards the stairs to remind him that they have to. I mean, they didn't say it out loud, but you could see that was what they were doing. It was like, oh, no, we have to go up here. He's like, oh, yeah.
I love it. And I'm glad they kept it in, too.
Yeah. So it is time for the Traitors' Turret. First, they have to take their oath, and then they reveal themselves to each other. Bob and Danielle are in there first, and they both laugh hysterically at their mutual performances on the raft. Carolyn tells us she prepared for this by sleeping in a cloak. And as the owner of this cloak, which I actually bought back in college, who knew? Who knew?
Who knew
All
it?
these years later, what, 35, 36 years later? I don't even know. I probably don't want to count that much. I still have this and am using it for a podcast, which was not even a glimmer in anyone's mind back in those days.
It's an investment, is what it is.
Yes, it was. It was. And now remember also with Carolyn, when she was on Survivor, the voting booth had a medieval theme. And she talked about owning a Morning Star as a kid when she went in there one time.
Yeah.
And so I believe that she has a cloak and slept in it. I totally
believe that 100%.
Yeah. She reveals herself in the turret, and all three of them are surprised, and they're all celebrating, and the other two say nobody will suspect Carolyn. And I tend to agree with them.
I also agree with them. I think they could very well be, as we get to the end, that Carolyn does, kind of trip up, or that people do start to suspect her, because we saw her on 44. She does quite a lot on the show, but I don't think there's going to be anything on her end that makes her more suspicious than people would already think her to be for a traitor. So I do think that she's going to make an excellent traitor here.
Yeah. Now, before the traitors make their decision, which we don't end up getting to see, we're brought back to Boston Rob. Or rather, he's brought back to Alan, tied up in a hooded cloak. It's kind of funny that he had a hood over his backward baseball cap.
Yes.
It's a new fashion statement. Of course, I have a hood over earphones. So Alan tells him that Rob will be brought back into the game tomorrow as a traitor. The other traitors won't know till he joins them in the turret tomorrow night. And there are two other players who Alan says will be hanging around in the woods as well. And I immediately know that this is the episode that just aired. Was it episode? I've watched so many of these. Yes, episode 4 of UK, where they brought back. Here's a spoiler. I know you haven't watched it, but
I did hear that 3 players, I think, got banished at the very beginning of the game.
Yes, they got exiled or removed or something. And yes, they come back, as we knew, and they will be in the same game. But in theory, if they play it the same, that means there won't be a guarantee that Rob would actually come back into the game. So it'll be interesting to see. I suspect that of the other 2 players, one of them is Davey Rickenbacker, because he was rumored to have been a player on the season, and then he returned and said, "Oh no, I was an alternate." I suspect he's the one that doesn't get picked out of this game that comes.
I will not give my
I know that you know Davey better than I know Davey.
No,
so.
I know just from the grapevine of social media who the other players that return are. But yes, I do have an idea of that journey as well.
Okay.
Yes.
I suspect that most people who are watching this podcast, listening to this podcast, have already watched episodes 2 and 3, but just in case they haven't, we'll, and if I'm wrong, then they can be laughing at me right now and being like, "You dummy, you didn't know anything." Just wait to our predictions. Then you can really. But I think we can rest assured Rob is going to make it, especially since the way Alan said it, he said he will return to the game as a traitor.
Yeah, I'm not worried about, I guess for the Boston Rob fans, I don't think they need to worry about Boston Rob not making it back in the game.
I just don't. The way that the players were selected in the UK version was other players basically had to find coins and vote for them.
Who they want. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know who all these people are that's going to be voting for Rob.
I genuinely just don't like how this twist is being held. And I don't know if the UK version is any different, but it feels odd that they basically just gave 3 players a pass to not be the first boot in the game. It just feels very odd to me. But I'm interested to see how this will be executed, especially after we just had a challenge where there was a big gender imbalance, and now they're bringing in 3 more players in here. So I'm interested to see how it happened. Like, what are the results of this decision? So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, with the UK, they allowed some people to get eliminated before bringing the 3, actually
Yeah.
2 people, and so there was more of a delay, so there is something of a negative for the people who come back, and that they haven't had time to make all the relationships.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it's just been one day.
Yeah.
I mean, there are still some relationships that have already been formed, but it's not nearly the same,
Yeah.
as it was for the UK. But yeah,
Okay.
we'll see. So the other thing is, when Boston Rob does come back, I'm a little worried he'll kind of ruin the vibe in the Traitors turret.
I know. I don't like that he's back immediately as a traitor.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't. I really don't like it. I'm so excited for the traders that we do have.
Yeah.
And I think it would have just been fun to, like, there was nothing wrong with these dynamics. Let them, and I don't mean nothing wrong, like no drama can form from it.
Right.
I think there will be plenty of drama in there, but they don't need a 4th person in
Yeah.
there. And it does, and for those of us that know how Boston Rob plays, it's very much his way or the highway a lot of the time. So I don't really want him returning as a traitor.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it plays out. I am not an anti-Boston Rob guy. I have done shots with Boston Rob at a casino. So, I have played blackjack with Boston Rob. But in this case, he has a much different vibe than the other 3 traders that we saw. And I just think that will shift things a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right.
So that is the end of the episode. Let's talk about our final thoughts and predictions. First of all, I already said this, but I'm going to say it again. I am so happy that Carolyn is a traitor, and Danielle too. And like I said earlier, I think Bob will be fun as well, but I just don't know him.
Mm-hmm. Very fair. Very fair.
The other thing is, what are your final thoughts before we get to predictions?
I'm very excited about these traitor selections. Not a huge fan of the twist that was revealed at the end, but I'm sure that there will be plenty of pushback for the players that arrived late in the game. So it'll be interesting to see how they what's the word that I'm looking for? How they make up for lost time, I guess I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I'm very excited for this season. There's a lot of really good personalities on here. I think the traitor selection is excellent. And I'm sure these first few boots I'm going to be very sad about, but I'm excited. I'm so happy we're back in traitor season.
Yes. As for predictions, now, as I mentioned, I know lots of people may have already watched all 3 episodes and will laugh at us when we make our predictions. But let's do it anyway. I think that they will end up murdering Bob Harper or Sam, because I think Bob the drag queen will bring up all the women volunteering again and say that wasn't fair and we should get rid of a guy. And 2 of the traitors are women, who will probably agree with Bob if Bob brings it up. So I think, just to make it easier on podcasters so that we don't have to say full names like Bob the drag queen and Bob Harper, I think they're going to purposely get rid of Bob Harper just to make it easier on us.
Interesting. So my thought process on this, now I tweeted at the very beginning of the episode that I hoped that Brittany's ex was going to be the first one murdered, because I'm not worried too much about like his longevity in the game. Like, I'm worried about some of these
Sam?
icons. Sam, yes.
Okay, I forgot who Sam was. That's
so
how much I remember.
He is one of the people vulnerable here, and he got kind of a nothing edit. So there is the part of me that is thinking, well, maybe they gave the first boot kind of a nothing edit, so we don't really miss them, right?
Yeah.
So I'm also sort of leaning towards Sam. However, I feel like Dorinda got such a big edit, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other part of me is wondering, well, what if she is they give her this big edit because she is the first boo? Like, of all the people that were vulnerable, besides the two that are traitors, the other of the people that are left, Bob had some moments, Bob Harper had some moments, but not really anything that made me like really remember anything super memorable he did in this first episode, other than give up his spot on the boat. So my thought, I'm leaning, it's either Sam or Dorinda, in my opinion. And since you already said Sam, I'll go with Dorinda here.
Well, I said Bob Harper for
Okay,
my
you said Bob
final
Harper.
one.
Okay, wait, then I'll grab the other person. I'll say
Okay.
Sam.
Yeah.
Yes.
Had I remembered who Sam was, I would have said Sam. But
Yeah.
since you've already taken him, I'll, Now, I do think Dorinda will end up being banished. I think that she has already drawn too much attention early in the game. And with the little seeds we saw of people already saying, well, she could be a traitor, I think she's going to be the first one banished.
Yeah, I do think she is on borrowed time right now, whether she's murdered or banished here. So yeah, I think that's a very fair prediction for first banished.
I would also like to put on record, and you're the lucky one who gets to do this here, predict who will win.
Ooh.
So I will go first. And I mean, we've already kind of hinted at this. I truly think Carolyn has a good chance of winning this thing because she will just be so hard to figure out. And, I know that she gets emotionally attached to people, but she also knows not to allow that to interfere with her game. As a matter of fact, a little tidbit for people who may not know this. Anyone who watched her on Survivor, when she did her confessionals saying things like, and she'd change her voice and she'd be like, I know I can't let the emotions interfere with my game. She was mimicking me because that is one of my Survivor rules. And she, bought one of our Survivor posters. She knew the rules and everything. And she confirmed to me she was mimicking me when she was doing that.
That's incredible. I love that.
Yeah. So she knows that. But I have not talked to her at all about the traitors. I haven't talked to her in a little while. So I know she knows what to do. I also love Danielle. I would love to predict a win for her as well, but the odds of two traitors making it to the end together and sticking together are slim. So I'm just going to go with my first pick and say Carolyn.
Yeah. All right. I think I'm going to go on the similar trajectory of you as you, David, and predict we'll get a traitor win. It might be a long shot here, but I'm going to predict a Bob win.
All right.
I think Bob is very, very similar to Carolyn in that they are big personalities who being a traitor is not necessarily going to alter their personalities. Like, I think for someone like Bob, they would be cussing out people for all the men for not making it more fair on the main challenge that they did, whether they were a traitor or not. I don't know if they would have necessarily volunteered their spot for it, but I think that is very much in character with Bob as well. So I could see very realistically Bob making it far and potentially winning, because I don't really see anything that they do in their personality that's different from how they act in their other times on TV that would make me think that, oh, okay, like this person's not going to be long in the game. People are going to be suspicious of them. I think that Bob is a very savvy player, a very keen sense of reading people and be very smart, sharp-witted, things like that. So now, I do
reading people like they do on this game, or reading people like they do on
both. reading and reading. Okay, we have all types of literature here with Bob here. We are very blessed. So I do think that Bob, I think that it's not out of the realm of possibility that Bob could be our sole traitor winner here.
I do like the way Bob, I mean, like you said, the way Bob acted in this first episode.
Yeah.
Just being out there, being loud, being like, I say, this is the way it should go, was not traitor behavior. And so
Yeah.
I do think that will help much the way you said.
Yeah. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how some of this unfolds.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, we are done with episode 1. If people want to hear more from you, see more from you, talk to you, where can they find you on podcasting, social media, and anything else?
Thank you. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. All the same handle at Classically Gia for all of my reality TV shenanigans. And you can also check out some of the podcasts I do on Silent Podcasts. Chappelle and I recap Abbott Elementary on Recap Kickback, and I do some writing on Inside Survivor. We are on our break right now for the Survivor off season. However, we are going to have some more 50 for 50 articles where 5 of the writers drafted 10 players each that they wanted to see return to Survivor for Survivor 50. So I have a few more articles that I have to finish up, and I have a few that are in line to be released soon. So we will have some more Gia takes very shortly.
All right. Well, as I mentioned earlier, I am all over social media and reality TV podcasting. For a start, I will be right back here on the Traitors for the Traitors US, throughout the whole season, and once per week on the Traitors UK. Beginning late next month, I will be back podcasting about US Survivor on Rob Has a Podcast Network, with the name of the show being Why Blank Lost. And you can find that on We Know Survivor, the webpage We Know Survivor, in order to get, to just subscribe to everything there. Throughout all that time, I will be posting at least 2, often more, reality TV short videos per day on YouTube, TikTok, unless it's, banned in the US within the next week or so, and Instagram as at David Bloomberg TV. Right now, it's a mix of the Traitors UK, the Traitors US, Beast Games, Deal or No Deal Island, and Survivor flashbacks to older seasons. You can also find all my various accounts through my Linktree at Linktree/David Bloomberg with a dot before the EE in the URL there. Or you can find me on Blue Sky as at David Bloomberg. Normally, this is where I'd also say you could find me on Threads as at David Bloomberg TV, but I will be spending less time there with the recent announcement that they are going to follow Twitter/X down the bad place rabbit hole.
Have we not suffered enough?
I know. So I encourage anyone at Twitter or Threads to come over to Blue Sky, join us there.
Yes.
We have lots of good conversations as well.
It's a fun time over there, I promise.
It is. I can actually post stuff and have conversations with people without some rando coming in and starting to call me names for no reason.
Yes, I'm really enjoying that. Yeah. I'm also enjoying people not harassing me anytime we congratulate a person of color for something.
Yes,
so yes, it's been lovely.
Yeah. Well, with that, it is time to finish the Traitor game.
Yes.
Ooh. Ah.
Gia, did you lie to me?
I did.
Okay. Well, I did lie to you as well.
That's okay. I knew it was coming. I didn't want to believe it, but I knew it was coming.
Would you like me to guess yours first? Or you can. It's up to you.
No, I need a little more time. You guess first.
Okay. Well, the only thing that stood out to me as something that it's unlikely I would know, was that you were podcasting about a South African show, and it's about Christmas, but you said you were doing it today, but Christmas was 2 weeks ago. So I couldn't figure out why you'd be podcasting about a Christmas show today. So I'm going to say that is your lie. Something about that whole podcasting about
Yes.
the South African Christmas show.
Well, I hope you noticed that I was I love a good tangent, but I wanted to do a couple extra tangents in there to hopefully throw you off. And for today, David, I am sad to admit that you did not catch the lie in there because and we explain this in the recap of the show. Chappelle and I are there's a 3-season South African show called How to Ruin Christmas, and that is the title. But Christmas is actually more of a like a background character.
Okay.
It's based around two families that a member of each family is getting married during Christmas, and then of course a bunch of shenanigans ensue, and then there's a funeral the next Christmas, so it's based on that. We recorded for season 1 around Christmas time, and then of course holiday season, and we know Chappelle's doing like a million podcasts right now.
Yes.
So this was actually our second time to the most recent time either of us were or both of us were available to record our recaps of season 2. So I was going to try to make that a lie by saying it was like a Nigerian show or something like that. But I feel like there was too much pause there. So I didn't want to do that. So that was not actually my lie.
Okay.
Yes.
So what was your lie then?
My lie was me saying that I have only watched about 20 minutes of Deal or No Deal Island. I have not watched any of Deal or No Deal Island. And I do think I am going to change that. Maybe do a little binge watch at some point when, especially with this new season that I believe it started airing yesterday. But
Yes.
but I've seen a bunch of it on social media and whatnot.
Mhm.
So that will likely change. But, I saw the opportunity. I'm like, let me just throw in that little tidbit there.
The reason that was so believable, which you may not have realized, is yesterday there were a number of people on Blue Sky who made it about 20 minutes in and they were like, yeah, I've had enough of this.
Oh my God.
Maybe 20, 30, 40, but about that amount. So I just thought you were one of those people who had made it about that same amount of time.
It was just, at some point, you watch so many competition shows that you get to a point where like, I can't possibly take on another one right now, which I think was the circumstance regarding season 1. I didn't really feel like I was particularly left out by not watching it, since most of the people that I talk reality TV with were mostly talking about Survivor and Big Brother.
Right.
But I gotta say, I did feel left out when everybody was tweeting about it.
When everybody started yelling Dondi all the time.
Yes. And it took me a very embarrassingly long time to figure out that Dondi was an acronym for Deal or No Deal Island.
I still don't know if the show invented the hashtag Dondi or if people like Chappelle and Rob invented the hashtag Dondi.
I am going to guess that it's the latter in there, but I'm sure. What is it? Peacock? Is it Peacock that it?
No, it's NBC.
It's NBC. I'm sure NBC would say otherwise.
Yes.
All right.
Well, it is your turn.
So David, I'm a little stressed here because I feel like you're probably as the seasoned vet between both of us for this the Traitors game, that you probably have a little more experience with this than me. So I'm gonna make a guess.
Okay.
But I have a backup one just in case.
Okay.
But I don't know if this was just a slip up, like it was incorrect information, but you didn't know it was incorrect, or if this is actually the lie. When we were talking about Scandival, you said that Ariana was Tom Sandoval's wife, and I believe that they were never married. They were just a couple, like they had never been officially married. So
that was not a lie because I know nothing about them. Okay. I was going off of what they said on the show. Maybe they just said ex, and I thought it was ex-wife.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I thought she had said ex-wife, so I
thought you were like just slipping it in there.
No, so I will not count that one. So
okay, so that one is it. I will say for my other one, we talked about it at the very beginning. Now, I know you did go to the hospital at the end of Big Brother All Stars. I remember this because like with the episodes, they had to stop for a while because of it. So I remember that. So I'll just say that the lie was the 10 days part. Maybe it was more or maybe a day less. So I'll say that part.
Unfortunately, no, that was not the lie. I was in there for 10 days.
Oh, God.
And
Okay.
yeah, we never did do a finale for Big Brother All Stars, Why Blank One, because we had seen for weeks leading up to it why he was going
I
to
think
win.
that's very
And
fair.
so,
Just take everyone out of their misery
Yeah.
at that point.
yeah, this was one of the times that a doctor who it was actually a partner of the doctor that I had at the time because my doctor was on leave, basically, tried to kill me by not diagnosing me properly. So
Lovely.
lovely. Yes, it took a while. And then eventually they were like, you need to be in the ER right now.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Isn't that always the way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, my lie was extremely similar to your lie.
Oh.
Because I said I have watched exactly one episode of a Housewives
And
show.
you haven't.
I have watched exactly 0 episodes of a Housewives show. So we were thinking along the same track there.
I know, and listen, I know Sandoval said he did not want to be a traitor. I genuinely don't think that I am a particularly good liar when it comes to stuff, especially if I'm told I have to have a lie ready. So I'm like, I'm just gonna find a place that I can put a like lie in without it being like wink wink, like, oh, this isn't suspicious. So I'm glad we were thinking along the same lines.
Well, and also you use the same method that I often use with Matthew, which is throw in the tangents and then he never knows which one, so yes. All right. Well, with that, thank you very much. I will be back with another Mafia player, Laura Effinger Dean, as my guest for episodes 2 and 3 this weekend. Also for Traitors UK episode 5, which I'm recording in like 9 hours. And then again next week for Traitors US episode 4, Traitors UK episode 8, and it'll just continue from there. So I hope everyone tunes in for those, and feel free to reach out to both of us through social media. Thanks a lot, and remember, everyone, stay traitorous.